All right, so we're joined from Orangeburg, South Carolina by the amazing Dr. Phyllis Pelzer, engineer, history maker there in the Palmetto State. We got a room here at Velma Jackson High School. This is for all of our computer science engineering students in middle school, high schools, in Madison County schools, and for our YouTube channel. So we are so thankful for having you with us today.
Thank you. I appreciate the invitation. I'm very excited to be here today.
Now,
Will you allow me to?
you're allowed to share. You have a resume that will match up with anybody we've ever had. So we're looking forward to learning more about you.
All right. So, in true engineering fashion, I came up with a presentation for you just to kind of give you a little background into who I am. Now, for the students that are in the room, I just want to kind of phrase it this way: a career in engineering. I hope you're thinking about it. Is it for you? And I hope after you hear me today, you will really give it some serious consideration for yourself. So a little bit about me. I'm from a little town, a little small town, kind of not unlike you. It's called Orangeburg, South Carolina. I'm a licensed engineer. I am also a realtor and I own several businesses. And I forgot to say, I'm also a licensed residential builder. So I have
That's
a few
awesome.
licenses under my belt, but really, I'm just a small town girl with big dreams. And I live by these words that Dr. Maya Angelou, I heard her speak one time, is we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. And so
Wow.
I'm really honored to be able to be here today to share and hopefully pour into somebody that's here today. So let me take you on a journey. All right. If you'll indulge me for about 3 minutes, I just want to share with
Sure.
you kind of where I came from because I think it's relevant, especially for the demographics that are at Velma Jackson High School. Can y'all hear it?
I can't hear, but we see it.
Okay, so I'm going to talk over it since you can't hear it. I'm riding
Okay.
through Orangeburg, and you can tell this is really just a little small town, right?
Yep.
And I lived in this area when I was a kid, just a little block house. And we moved when I was about maybe two or something. We moved to this street. It's called Treadwell. And when we got to Treadwell Street, I think we thought we kind of made it, right? Because we moved up from the little block house over to this house. And you see this little yellow house right here? This is where I
Yeah.
grew up most of my young adult childhood. And there was a church behind my house, and I would jump the fence and go to my little kindergarten school at the church behind my house. Now, I think we were about 8 or 9. We moved to the suburbs and we had a 3 bedroom, 2 bath house, and we thought we really had just made it. We moved to the suburbs. And so that was a big accomplishment. My mother, she worked at South Carolina State University in food services, and my father was a contractor. And I think that's where I got my love for the contractor and building houses and designing houses from. But this is the entrance to South Carolina State University. And this is my alma mater. And this is kind of where I got my foundation that allowed me to go into engineering. My mother worked here. I was always good at math and science. And my guidance counselor at school, his nosy self, he told my mother, hey, Phyllis is good at math and science. You should sign her up for engineering. And being that my mother worked at South Carolina State University, she went to the admissions office and said, hey, sign my daughter up. She came home one day and she said, Phyllis, pack your clothes. You're going to South Carolina State University. I had other plans, but she had plans for me. And I'm glad that she did. And I'm glad that I followed my mother's direction because it led to where I am today. And this is South Carolina State University. And I want you all to consider it because you're at an age now where you should be thinking about maybe where I want to go to college, right? South Carolina State University, my alma mater, was birthed in 1896 as the Colored Normal Industrial Agriculture and Mechanical College of South Carolina. Then it became South Carolina State College. And then it became South Carolina State University. It's the largest HBCU in South Carolina. They have the only BS degree in nuclear engineering in South Carolina. And I am proud to say that I helped birth that program over 20 years ago. Also, an interesting fact, we have 21 graduates who have achieved the rank of general in the United States military. So we're one of the biggest
Wow.
that produces generals from HBCUs, right? Black generals. And we also graduated the first Black female licensed engineer in South Carolina. Her name is Dr. Phyllis Pelzer. That would be me. So I'm very, very proud of my university and
And not to cut you off, but one of the actually the associate director of admissions and recruitment at South Carolina State is an alumni of Velma Jackson High School.
oh wow, that's so awesome.
Yeah, Bria Job. Yeah,
Well,
Bria
make
Job.
sure he gets the video.
She's the associate director of admissions at South Carolina State. And she's been there a
How
couple
about
years. She went to our high school here at Velma Jackson, and she's all the way out there in Orangeburg now.
what's her name?
Bria Job.
All right, let's shout her out. So let's make sure she gets this and let's share it with all of the other students at Velma Jackson High School. Let me tell you a little bit about kind of my experience. I've worked for South Carolina Department of Transportation and Alabama Department of Transportation. Most of that time I've spent designing traffic lights, those very traffic lights that you see on the road
Wow.
that some of y'all honor and some of y'all run through. And also train preemption signals. So you know how when you get to a traffic light and the train is coming and the arms come down and they start flashing, there's a methodology behind that to make sure that you're safe at the intersection. So that was a big bulk of my work, working with intersections and particularly traffic signal systems within South Carolina and Alabama DOT. Also, I'm in construction management. One of my big projects right now is working with Target, the store Target.
Wow.
We're
Wow.
working on some we're working on some store renovations. So the subs that are out there, the electricians, the mechanical guys, the plumbing guys, all of that has to be managed. So I'm a part of the team that is managing those subs and making sure that they're building things correctly, or if they have questions, we have to, provide the answers and give the guidance. So I'm working on a big project right now with Target in construction management. Um, Also, I have a private practice firm. PRM Engineering Group is my engineering firm, and I also have a firm called Prism Development Group, and this is where um, my builder's license, my realtor's license, and my engineering license will all come together in terms of helping to develop new housing. One of the things that's on my radar right now is student housing at these colleges. A
Wow.
lot of colleges are in need of more dormitories and student housing for their students, because a lot of you all are wanting to go to college, and we have to be able to accommodate that. So I do have a private practice firm, and I can show you guys some of the things that I do in that firm a little later if you'd like me to. I can show you.
Absolutely.
And so I do have a private practice firm, and as I said, I'm also a realtor. Now, let me tell you, like, one of the loves of my life, okay? I don't know if you ever heard of the National Society of Black Engineers, but I hope you have. But if you have not, one thing I didn't tell you is that this 2023, 6 years ago, I left teaching. I taught for about 10 years. I taught high school engineering, something called Project Lead the Way in my school district. So I birthed a NSBE Junior chapter, National Society of
Wow.
Black Engineers. And the first year that we became a chapter, we became chapter of the year. You see this picture on the right here?
Wow.
I am so proud of my students back then. We were on the cover of the NSBE Bridge magazine, and we just came in guns blazing. We didn't really know what we were doing, but we just did everything. We participated in trimathlon. We did the racing competition. We did the windmill competition. We did the science bowls. We did some of everything. The robotics for sure. All of my students, and you see different I have so many pictures. I could not even share it all if we had all day. I took plenty of pictures. My students are always winning. Almost every time we went to a competition, we won first. If we didn't win first, we won second or third. We never went to a competition and did not come home with a trophy of some kind. And so I'm just very proud of the students that I was able to help during my tenure as a teacher. And many of them have gone on now. They've graduated college. Some are in college now. They've graduated. They've become nuclear engineers. Some are becoming doctors, all kinds of other professionals. So I'm just very proud of what I did as a part of the NSBE chapter. And if you guys don't have a NSBE chapter, I highly encourage you to get a NSBE chapter. It's kind of like your TSA. Get a NSBE chapter at your school. I know for a fact the corporate office will work with you guys and really help you to be able to do a lot. And let me also say, and I see that you did some of the same, Mr. Piger. I took my students all over. We went to Canada, California, Houston, Indianapolis, Kansas City. We just went everywhere, Orlando. We went all across the United States to different competitions and conferences, and they enjoyed themselves. I don't know how we did it. We just believed, and we fundraised like you wouldn't believe. And the community rallied behind us, and we were able to really do a lot of great things during that time. So I know I'm talking a lot about NSBE, but my love for NSBE will never die because it's attached to the students who I had an opportunity to impact directly as they matriculate through school. And as I always say, Mr. Pigot, it's one thing to be an engineer. It's a whole nother thing to be an engineering teacher. See, the teachers make the engineers and the doctors. So I want you guys to make sure that you give Mr. Pigot all due respect and give him his accolades, because it is his hard work and dedication that helps make it possible for you to matriculate through. And so I love that, NSBE.
Well, it's not about me, but I did want to say one thing about NSBE because, and actually here at Madison County Schools, our original high school that'll see this later, they have an engineering academy on campus, and we also have an engineering and robotics academy at our VOTEC Center that is open to all Madison County students. And as far as NSBE, I want the kids to know that even if you choose to go to a PWI, it's not HBCU exclusive. Mississippi State. I went to LSU. LSU has a great NSBE chapter. Mississippi State has a great NSBE chapter, as well as the HBCU. So this is something that anybody that gets the engineering program anywhere can get involved in. And it really is great for not only extracurricular and fun, but it does great with networking. A lot of companies are looking to diversify their staff and hire people from NSBE. So the networking possibilities on the college level of NSBE are spectacular.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you brought that up, because we are at pretty much every major PWI. So it doesn't really matter where you land. I guarantee you can find a NSBE chapter to connect with, or some NSBE professional in that community. And so, yeah, absolutely, that's a very, very good point. So young ladies and gentlemen, what makes a good engineer? I hope that if you look really,
nice picture.
Surprise. I've been on your website. If you look really close, I don't know how old this picture is, but that was
from this summer in Louisville, Kentucky.
How about that? So that's you guys back there. What makes a good engineer? I thought about this thing. Are you good at math? Do you like to solve problems? Are you the go-to person to fix things in your family? Or if somebody has a problem at home, they go, hey, Susie, can you fix it or whatever? Do you like to design or build things? Are you just curious by nature? Do you pay attention to details? Do you like technology and think a lot about how it works? You thought about like app development and those kind of things. Are you creative and innovative, right? Something doesn't work right, you just figure out a creative way to do it anyway, right? And do you have a desire to impact society? If you do, ladies and gentlemen, you might be a good fit to become an engineer, because these are the qualities that we're basically looking for in our engineering professionals to help us. And as an engineer, what you do, what I love, I think most about engineering is that everything I do impacts my community in some way. There's no job that I can take that just impacts one person or two. It always impacts multiple people across the community. And I absolutely love that I'm able to do some work. And when I go to a restaurant that I worked on or whatever, I'm looking around and I'm proud because I worked on, I do the plans for that. Or if I attend the church and I look and I see the lights hanging and whatnot, I designed that, I did that. So, or if I drive through a traffic light, I remember, oh yeah, I remember when I designed that. So it is great. It is a great thing to be in a position to impact your community in that way. So you just might be a good engineer if you have those qualities. And the requirements to become an engineer is, you got to go to school for 4 years to an accredited engineering school. And usually you have to get out and work 4 or more years before you can sit for the professional engineering exam. And most times you can take the engineering training exam. That's the first exam you take. Both of these are 8-hour exams. That's the first exam you take. If you're smart, you'll take it right like your senior year of college or right after. Like, don't wait a lot of time because that's very, I guess, academically intensive. Whereas the professional engineering exam you take after some time you've been working is more real life scenarios, right? Real life engineering. So you'll have to have some experience to be able to pass that exam. So you're going to take both of those exams and pass them. And whatever state you're in, you're normally, the requirements are not too far off. They change from state to state, but they are pretty consistent across the board. You'll become a licensed engineer. So I'm going to take a break and I'm going to see if any of the students or you, Mr. Pyga, have any questions for me.
Yeah, we'll get to the students' questions in a second. But one thing I did want to, there's a couple of things I wanted to talk about. You're humble because you talked about the requirements to be an engineer, and you were the first Black woman in the history of the state of South Carolina to be a licensed engineer. So obviously you broke that glass ceiling because there has been a big push for diversity in several fields, but especially in engineering. And we've had some other guests with similar credentials, but you were a history maker there in South Carolina. So talk a little bit about that, because that's quite an accomplishment.
Wow. Yeah, something. It's like when you do something as phenomenal as that, you're just doing what you have to do, right? You're not thinking about breaking barriers and all of the bigger implications of it. At the time I was going through it, I kind of knew that it was a big deal, but I didn't really know how big of a deal, it would turn out to be. I was just fighting for my right to become a licensed engineer. And so now to give you a little history, it didn't come easy because in South Carolina, there's a lot of history behind it. I won't go into it, but the South Carolina State University, the largest HBCU in South Carolina, is the only one that had engineering technology. And Clemson and USC, if you've heard of these universities, those universities had engineering. The basic difference between the two is engineering technology is you learn some theory and you learn some hands-on, right? You kind of the people that got to do a little bit more hands-on. Whereas the engineers, they pretty much kind of stick to the theory part of it, right? So they will make an engineering technology graduate work a little longer most times in terms of becoming a licensed engineer. In the state of South Carolina, they did not allow engineering technology graduates to sit with a license. So I was a part of a group of people at South Carolina State University, our Industrial Advisory Council. We fought with the state legislators for years, 4 or 5 years, and we were able to change the law. As soon as we changed the law, I sat for the exam and I passed it. And I was 8 years out of school at the time, 8 or 10 years out of school at the time. And I was able to take the test and pass it immediately, which in and of itself is quite an accomplishment because a lot of people don't pass the first time. And for me, it was like, I can't take this test for once. It's like all or nothing. And I want y'all to know, I didn't have any help. I sat at home. I bought one book to study from and a notebook. And I sat down at night at home for 3 months, 2 hours every night, 6 nights a week. And I studied by myself to take that exam because I was determined to take it and pass it the first time. And thankfully I did. So now, I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And you had every right to mention that. I was going to mention that if you didn't, because that is a very big deal. To have that accomplishment. Now, another thing I wanted to talk about is because you are you focus a lot on construction of different sorts of, pretty much across the spectrum of construction. So, our big goal in our school district is to really let kids know about options. Everybody can't go to college. Everybody doesn't have a desire. Everybody doesn't have the financial means, and that's understandable. But you deal with a lot of people in trades that make very, very good money, that are in very high demand to work hand in hand with these engineers. And there's a big need for females in that as well. That's not just a man's job. So talk a little bit about some of the trades that you've seen that work very closely with these engineers.
Right. Thank you for that question. And you're right. Certainly construction, right? I know at the school that I taught, it was a career center, and right down the hall from me was the construction class. And many times we did some joint projects, or like when we were working on our trebuchet project, we designed it and the class down the hall actually built it for us. And so those kinds of connections and collaborations. So business, you got to have some business acumen to become an engineering professional, right? And so many times I utilize business people in my profession to help me make the correct choices for what I need to do for my business, right? Automotive, right? What I like about automotive, if you have an automotive class at your school, is you basically kind of getting some hands-on mechanical engineering work, right? So if you know how to go in there and tinker with a car, that is kind of the basis. See, the mechanical engineers at Ford, let's say, will design the car, but you're the mechanic that has to be in the shop to tinker with it and figure it out and fix the problems that the engineer might have overlooked or whatever. So there are many, many, many trades that work hand in hand with engineering. Those are just a few. But career and technical education is really big right now. And if you don't have to do engineering, ladies and gentlemen. But I'm telling you, if you can get yourself a career ready skill set trade at your local career center, do that. Do that. My daughter went to the University of South Carolina for business marketing, but you know what she did in high school? She got her cosmetology license while in high school at the career center. So these are things that all of you in school, hopefully you have access to those things and you can do that and come out of school with some skills, some trades, some skill set that you can utilize to make money. You don't have to, necessarily wait until you graduate college to start a career.
Yeah, and I know especially our middle schoolers that'll see this later, they're probably not thinking that far ahead. But here at Madison County Schools, we do have the automotive science, and we do have the construction trade, so they can learn that in high school. And then Mississippi, we get such a bad rap, but our community college system offers 1 and 2 year programs where you can get these skills and start working immediately. And if you want to pursue the degree while you're working, you could do that. But there is always a need for people, and again, like we said, everybody doesn't have the desire to go to college, and that's perfectly fine. But there's a need for people to work with the engineers in order to get things done. So I really wanted to mention that because I don't think that gets talked about enough.
Plumbing and welding are another couple of good ones too. I know welders get paid very well, very well. So that's another skill that you can get, on a community college level. And I know at my career center, when I first got there, we had welding. They discontinued it somewhere along the way, but if you have access to a welding class, that's another good trade you can learn too.
Yeah, we have it at the community colleges here. They all do a great job. Now, another thing I want to talk about is obviously we'll let you make it being in the MEAC because this is SWAC country here.
I think we beat them not too long ago, but okay.
Yeah, and the Celebration Bowl you did. But here, here we have several HBCUs in Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, obviously some great ones in South Carolina and all over the country. And we have several students around all of our schools that are interested in doing the HBCU route and also some interested in the PWI route. Now, obviously, South Carolina State, besides it being convenient as far as your academic, it was convenient because it was close to home. So that is obviously a factor that comes into making a college choice. And you said your daughter went to the great University of South Carolina. They're part of the SEC, a great PWI. So you've seen the HBCU side and you've seen the PWI side. And both of them can offer great things depending on what a student wants. Now, one thing I always say is that historically Black does not mean exclusively Black.
Right,
There are, HBCUs are getting more and more diverse, especially with
right,
international population, and even with white population because of
absolutely.
all the academic things that they offer. But they still
Right.
offer different things. So talk a little bit about the pros of both, because HBCUs and PWIs, no matter what state you're in, really do offer a unique experience for a college student.
Hmm. Now I could tell you specifically for an HBCU, I like an HBCU like your family, kind of. And I'm saying that for minority students, right? Kind of like your family. It's usually going to be more close knit, more of a nurturing kind of environment, kind of like, come on, come on, come on, come on. You can do it. Let's go. Let's get it together, and you got, just the culture of the HBCU bands, and just all of that atmosphere, and the sororities and fraternities and stuff. Not that they're not at PWI, because they're there too. So it's just kind of a little bit more of a closer knit community, and usually most of them are smaller. So for students who not really kind of wanting to get out into a big, humongous university, now
Yeah.
my daughter wasn't scared to go to USC, which I'm sort of surprised because she's an introvert. But if you want like a small town home, smaller community setting, I think a HBCU is good. And you're still going to get the rigor, you're still going to get what you need in terms of academics. Now, I think for PWIs, I think what PWIs have over HBCUs is they have more resources, right? They're normally bigger. They're normally in a bigger city, or, they have more things to offer you because the funding is different there. So they have access to more resources and things that you may not have, or may have to struggle a little bit more to get at an HBCU. But both of them have their pros, and I think that whatever choice you make is going to be the right choice for you, right? It's going to be the right choice for you. The main thing is to go to college. Um, I I had students in my class that I didn't feel that they didn't really gravitate towards college. They were more like the Mark Zuckerbergs and the people who they're very, very smart, and college is kind of prohibiting to them. But there's something to be said about that experience, because even if you never use that degree, you're really going to use that experience. Going to college for 4 years teaches you more than just the academics. You learn a lot about yourself. You get a chance to grow up and really kind of immerse yourself. It's kind of like a pre-adult stage. So I highly recommend that everybody go to college, whether it's a 2-year college, 4-year college. Take that experience, because you'll definitely be able to utilize it, in your life at some point.
Yeah, and then the networking aspect, because we talked about
Yeah.
Nesby. Even you can get an engineering degree, but if nobody knows who you are, it's kind of hard to land a career in engineering.
Mm-hmm.
So great organizations like that,
It
and
is.
Nesby is just one of many that are in on these
Right.
college campuses. So,
Right.
and I'm a graduate of Southern Miss, and they have a polymer engineering, which is a very
Wow.
fast growing
Yeah.
with the plastics.
Yeah.
And then at Mississippi State, we have the agriculture engineering, the environmental engineering, and
Mm-hmm.
at Jackson State, they've really gotten big in electrical engineering. So there really are
Wow.
so many avenues for with undergrad and graduate. So one thing I
Right.
I have a lot of guests that have done undergrad HBCU, graduate PWI,
Mm-hmm.
or vice versa, and they really get the best of both experiences, and
Right.
they work in any field in engineering.
Right. And South Carolina State is coming out with the fire protection engineering
Wow,
course, fire protection.
wow.
Yeah. And so I know that's going to be big as well. And I told you they started nuclear engineering, which is a very, very, very rigorous field. But yeah, you're right about the networking. And just so you know, NSBE every March they have a big conference somewhere, and they always have a great career fair attached to it. And when I say a great career fair, I mean every major STEM oriented organization, colleges, everybody comes to this career fair looking for the best and the brightest. And most of those kids who are seniors and ready to graduate will walk out of there with a connection to a job. And I tell you, if you don't do nothing else, go to that. I'm telling you, you win it, because you can really find a job through your NSBE connections. for
Yeah,
real.
and it really is a job that can take you anywhere. We've had several graduates of Velma Jackson that have gotten engineering degrees, and we've had a couple of them speak. One of them has gotten, both of them were part of NSBE. One of them has moved to Atlanta. Another one has moved to Amarillo, Texas, and that's just two off the
Mm-hmm.
top of my head. So it
Mm-hmm.
really is a field that can lead you to some great places. Now, before I
Mm-hmm.
get to the students' questions, I ask every guest the same question because I think
Mm-hmm.
it's important. I think I can speak for every teacher that sees
Mm-hmm.
this because these students want to give up so easy. Oh, this is too hard. I quit. How often does an engineer get it right the first time?
That's a rhetorical question, apparently. No. Listen, engineers fail their way to success. Any
Yeah.
successful person is going to fail their way to success. This idea, a misnomer that, we're perfect and we're always going to have the things right. No, 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 no. Engineers make plenty of mistakes, but we have plenty more successes. That's why Formula 409 is 409, because it was 408 times. It was not right, right? So don't be afraid of failure. But I want to show y'all my shirt. I'm gonna stamp a little bit. You see my shirt? It says I can, I will, end of story. And I wore that. I started to change and put on a real nice shirt under my jacket. I said, no, I want the students to see it. It says I can, I will, end of story. And I just want you students to know you can, you definitely will, end of story. It's all in your mind, right? Whatever you desire to do, whatever your goals are, don't let anybody tell you they're unrealistic or you're crazy for thinking it. I want you to think the most wildest thing that you can think of, whatever that is in your heart to do. Don't let nobody talk you out of it. And there will be days that you will think about giving up or this didn't work out. But I promise you, think about 409. Just either scrap that one and go back to the drawing board because you can get it right. And if you think we're right all the time, Google, what's it called? Galloping Gertie. Galloping Gertie. Y'all ever seen that video? It's a bridge in San Francisco. When they first built it, they didn't take into consideration all of the factors. And the bridge was swaying like this with the cars on it. It's called Galloping Gertie. We don't get it right all the time, but we get it right enough.
That's
Mm-hmm.
awesome. Now, I do have some great questions here. This first one, this is Michael Sherrill. He's in 10th grade, one of our football players here. And he asked, what is the hardest part about getting to where you are in your career?
The hardest part really is I guess for me, the hardest part was kind of for my particular journey was fighting with the state and changing all of the laws, right? Because I knew I had it in me to do it, but the laws were against me. And my thing was, if you think I can't pass it, change the law and let me take the test. Because the test will be the final indicator. You change the law, let me take the test. I know I can do it. Others like me can do it. And as soon as they did that, and I was able to show that this thing that they thought I couldn't do, that I really could do, it was like game on from there. So that to me was the hardest part. But believe it or not, in my private practice, I've gotten 2 calls already this morning. I do not advertise. I don't. I don't do nothing. I get a lot of repeat customers. I get a lot of customers who refer me to other people. My phone rings off the hook. Um, Prayerfully thankful. I'm not bragging. I'm thankful. People call me and they're looking for me to come and help them. So I'm in a good place. But that was the hardest part, young man. That was the hardest part.
Yeah. Now, this is Tykevian Boyd. He's also in 10th grade, and he's interested in getting into computer software, video game designs, things of that nature. And he asked, what advice would you have for a aspiring engineer?
My advice would be to take your math and science classes seriously, right? Because that is the basis of a lot of what you're going to do. So, and manage your money well too. Let me tell you why I say that, because it's funny to me. When I think about math, I think about money. Because math ain't nothing but money with a dollar sign. And so it makes me kind of shrug when I hear students say, I don't like math. I'm like, you don't like money? Take your math and science class very seriously because they are going to prepare you for just about anything, whether it's computer science, civil engineering, structural, nuclear, I don't care. most of them are going to have some strong element of math and science to it. So take those classes seriously because they are going to be the foundation, and also they'll help you when you're really if you're starting your own business, which I hope all of you are thinking entrepreneurially, like you're thinking about
Well, we have
owning.
an entrepreneurship program here as well.
Yeah, I want y'all to think about owning your own thing one day, right? Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, I just got one more from the students. This is Krishan Smith. He's also a sophomore, another football player. And he asked, what is the most rewarding part about your career?
Oh my gosh. I'm just gonna tell you, like almost that question almost made me cry. Okay. The most rewarding part of what I do, and I alluded to it a few minutes ago, is what I was able to do for kids just like you. Students, let me not say kids. Students just like you. Um, when someone looks at my life and says, you know what, because of you, I became an engineer, like there is no amount of money, although I did get paid, there is no amount of money that can replace that feeling of knowing that what I'm doing and what I have done was not only for me, it helped somebody else. And so that to me was the most rewarding part. When I took students to competitions, this is no lie. When I started teaching, I charted a chapter of NSBE, and 3 weeks later, we went to our first competition, our first math competition. Little kids from Orangeburg, South Carolina, went to their first math competition out of state 3 weeks after we charted. And let me tell you this.
Wow.
Let me tell you this. They came back with a third place trophy. I was like, if we did that 3 weeks, what if we actually studied and knew what we were doing? And I'm gonna tell you, from that day on, we were winning first place trophies. We were winning first place. And so I don't care where you come from. And that's why I showed that video earlier. I don't care where you come from. I don't care what the circumstances of your birth are. At the end of the day, if you want it, you can have it. Go get it, whatever that is.
Yeah,
Whatever.
and I know it's cliche to hear, people say representation matters, but it really does because especially, in rural communities, no matter where they are, especially in rural Black communities, there was a limited amount of opportunities for everybody. But seeing
Right.
the change that people have made and the chances people have taken, like yourself, you see that it's possible. So it really does not matter what your circumstances are; they do not have to define where you end up.
That's right. That's
Now,
right.
now, before we wrap up, you did say you had a special surprise for us here at the end.
I do. I do. So now you're gonna have to be the person to tell me who gets this right. What I'm gonna
Okay.
do, I'm gonna text you. I'm gonna send you the answer so you'll know. Whoever the
Okay.
first person is to get this right, I got something for you. So let me text you. Let me send you the answer so you'll be ready.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Now let me share my screen.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. All right. So here, guys, this is a bonus question. I told you I want y'all to think like business owners, right? So this question is going to be worth $10. Okay. So it's not a lot, but you can eat lunch. And I'm going to send it by Cash App. I'll send it to your teacher, probably let him give it to you or direct you however you want to do it. But make sure you get it. $10. Y'all ready for the question? I
They're
want you
ready.
to get your pencil and paper ready so you can write it down. I want you to think like a business owner. Okay, here's the question. You just completed your first year in your engineering business, your firm. You decided to charge $5,000 for every commercial project. Commercial is just a business. And $3,200 for every residential project, like every house or whatever. So $5,000 for every business, $3,200 for every residential, right? Your expenses are $2,500 on every project. Doesn't matter if it's commercial or residential. You have to spend $2,500 just to make that money. If you had 75 commercial clients and 25 residential clients this year, how much profit did you make? I'm gonna give y'all about 30 seconds. I'm gonna be like, I want you to think. This is math. This is math with a dollar sign. Okay. How much money did you make? after your expenses? That's what I'm asking you.
I will see who gets closest. They're all figuring it out right now.
Because you gotta know how to count your money and how to manage your money. Hmm. I was gonna make it a little harder, but I said no. I was gonna make out do a little algebra in there, but okay. I wasn't exactly sure the age group. I just want to know if anybody can figure this out. Anybody got a guess yet?
This is kind of like an ACT question, so
I know. And let me tell you
got an
something.
answer.
That's right. Got one?
They got calculators and they're
That's fine. I had to
they're
use
writing
mine
down.
too. 5,000 commercial, 3,200 residential, but it costs you $2,500 every time you take a project. Doo, doo, doo. I should have sent it to you, Mr. Poggett. I should have made you to how much you figure. Because I want y'all to know, I want y'all to think this is why engineering is, this is one of the reasons why engineering is such a good career. Because I mean, really, it's a lucrative career. So when you
Uh,
do a project, you're probably gonna make that, I was just trying to do some low ball, easy numbers, but you could make 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 on a project, depending on the, size and scope of the project. Right.
do we have an
And
answer
if you
yet?
do, okay. Well, that's all right, Mr. Piger. I'm gonna send you the $10. And
Okay.
whoever gets
Hey, what do you
that
got?
answer right,
What do you got? Let me see it.
I want to show, kind of tell you about, but I want y'all to figure it out. I want y'all to think
No,
like y'all own a
whoever
business.
the first person, we'll let you know who the first person is, but we're almost out of time. And
Okay,
we'll
no problem.
definitely, I'll definitely get you we'll definitely get it to them. But we're
Okay.
almost out of time. We thank you so much for taking some time for us. But before we go, you showed us exactly where you came from. And you have made history there in the state of South Carolina, and you're still making history in a field that needs more young people, no matter who they are, but especially young ladies and these young Black kids. So, what can they do right now to prepare themselves for the obstacles they're going to face when they get into this field?
I think more than anything, it's an inside job, and don't let anybody tell you that you cannot do or you cannot be anything you want to be. It's really an inside job, and I really don't care what your surroundings are. I don't care what your house looks like, what car you drive, what your parents do for a living, what they make, how much money you make, if you got designers. I don't care. If you desire to do anything, if anybody else can do it, I always say, Mr. Paga, if somebody else did it, that means it can be done. And if it can be done, that means I can do it if I so desire to do it. And I want you to think that way too.
That's awesome. Such great advice. This was educational for me, so I know our other classes are going to get a kick out of this. But we thank you so much, Dr. Phyllis Pelzer, all the way from Orangeburg, South Carolina, the first ever Black female to be licensed as an engineer in the state of South Carolina. Thank you so much for joining us
You're
today.
welcome. You're welcome. Have a great
All
day.
right. I talk to you soon, buddy.
Bye now.